I have your attention. I had a coat right here, a white coat, and now it's gone.
Oh, no.
But you know,
Get it?
you're persistent.
I would hate to leave somebody
With
take
your
my
own
coat.
self, you do what's best for
No,
you,
that's not it.
and you're gonna achieve it. So whatever it is,
You know, I will, yeah, well,
thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I'll be back in a minute.
Hopefully the Jody, like talking to the choir. You're talking to the choir. I have a Zoom meeting I'm doing with Marquis. It's Wednesday. I'm bringing it to you. Okay.
Do you not trust your lips of Henley?
And also it's good for her too. Seriously.
Listen, it's a good thing.
It's good for her? Yeah.
And you would do it to me, smoke yes, too.
It's better than water too.
Kristen,
I don't know
anybody
about
sit
tomorrow,
here?
but
Anyone?
decent beverage.
All right. Very decent after water. After water, I take beverage.
Okay, we're starting to migrate now. So, you wanna start the movement?
Sorry.
Cranberry juice tastes like
You're right. Okay, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Forgot about that.
What were you saying?
So the panelists eventually are gonna sit in those front seats after the session. You can move up to the front row if you want, so it's easier for you to transition.
Does anyone else need napkins? Anyone else need napkins?
I was the same name.
Thanks for the warning. What's the one tell you like, I'll be right back?
Yeah, no, anybody can.
Okay, thanks. Oh, sorry. I hear you. I'm sorry, ma'am. I can't tell too many jokes anymore. I just got a pull up from a very, very, very good friend of mine.
I said, not big. I didn't say hi, I said big.
Well, I didn't mention that friend's name, and here you. Okay. I just. Okay. Okay. Listen. I listen much more than I used to. You know, I would just, you know. I feel that, and maybe Marquise will have a conversation that I had with him.
Okay, so what should we do? You have a different
So I'm
round?
not trying to mess up what anybody else's agenda.
We'll see you
You
when
know,
we get here.
and that's why I say I'm not trying to end nothing before it begins. And this is like, you know, we're at the beginning, but there's still more work to be done. Yeah. And realize that certain people that don't understand me, that's all right. That's all right. You don't have to understand me, but I'm very passionate. Yeah. Yeah.
See, this is what I don't like. I don't like people to hit me up out of nowhere. To their holiday events. And they never even step foot in one of mine. You know what I'm saying? Like that just, you hit me under the blue, like, hi honey, are you available? And I don't know. Where did I say? I said we was going to start. And we missed that.
I
No, it's Christmas season, we ain't got the capacity. I'm so tired.
I am so tied up. I'm glad that he won, Raphael won in Georgia. I'm so glad that he won, right?
Yeah, but you know they gotta be.
But I'm ready
That's
to
up to evil and all that.
Yo, that I'm ready to call him Begging Billy because every time I look at my email, yo, he's on some of them are
Yeah. We don't live in Georgia. That was Stacey's mom. Well, Stacey's mom wasn't going
Yo,
to
Dave's not here. Listen, let me tell you something. Smartest thing about, the best thing about right now, most of her money came out is our women. They're stepping up. Our black women are stepping up, and Stacey Abrams, she gives them no leeway. She will not compromise on her values and morals.
They're not gonna vote her. They're not gonna.
And
I
they
have to
said,
give a little pushback on that because she really didn't, give the black people a choice. Even though they voted for her and voted, and there was, they should have black people talking about reparations. It's serious. And we are of a mind that we're not voting for anybody that's not talking about reparations. We're not voting for anybody who's not talking about a black agenda. We are tired of when we say that we want to change for black people.
That's not a campaign.
That's right.
We're tired.
Not only that, we need to be a protected class of people, and that should be in a conversation.
We want a political power, a political base. We're tired. I'm not voting.
Simply, he barely won the
Because my
position.
ancestors said that I should. I'm writing people in like Malcolm X.
He's like the
Martin Luther King.
I felt like you.
Tanisha Grant.
That's why, like, a loser has a loser.
I mean, when I
And when they look at you,
She's
not a senior. How she couldn't think that? This is not a mistake.
I did not vote for Cat. No, I didn't. I put aside a sugar.
and I was getting ready to move
Okay, the other guy is more.
Oh, yeah, I have to say.
Yeah, I saw like a whole bunch of city councilors, like, that's what
So back to Stacey Abrams. Black, so is me. Everybody that's in the top power in New York is black. And look at black folks right now, doing what we have to do. Because they sit right there with the white people, they sit right there with white supremacy. So we have to stop putting people on these things. You ain't talking about this. It's not that. It's time for everybody to step back and for black
I need to
folks
take a
and
stance
their
on that
dues.
myself. If you're not, you know what she's saying.
Listen, I don't care.
Yeah, if they're not.
I'm of the mind that our ancestors built this country for everybody else to prosper and we shouldn't have to put two views together and create community-based organizations.
So what do you think about, so what do you think, how about this one? What do you think? What do you think about?
I lost my nail.
Oh, I was gonna say, I don't lost my mind. No. What do you think about Hakeem Jeffries? He's about to be minority party Democrat. He's taking over Nancy Pelosi.
You rather have Nancy. She might as well stay and have Hakeem. What's going on? Because there's issues. And then everybody says, oh, well, black
We don't get justice in that.
No, they say, oh, well, everybody black would have to be black. Yes.
Oh, that's right.
And he moving straight out the back to be a house nigga. All day long.
That's the girl, that's the girl.
I know.
Ladies were on screen.
We're just gonna have to show them.
What were you talking
Does anyone have an iPhone charger by chance?
Let me check.
Somebody said rental pay?
You need an iPhone charger? Ah, you got one? Have you never
But
seen?
listen, they can legalize marijuana, but who have they given it to?
Especially if I'm just suspecting,
I got you. But who have
ghetto.
they given it to?
Wait,
them?
we were at the
You go to
AOC
our
meeting.
store, you go to
We
our
saw me get
store.
ghetto.
I'm telling you, and
And guess what?
I want to though.
but it was done.
I still go to my I still go to my neighbor's right now.
I don't know if I would.
Okay.
Those are.
Anyway,
You know they have that far right convention tonight.
And I ain't mad.
No.
I don't think
What they, yo, what I heard, they going to the city council member and the council member.
I wanna go crash at a far right rally
And a lot,
today.
all that is illegal. They'll come in there and take the cigarettes, but they won't take the marijuana.
I guess they can't do all that.
I really don't care about that because, you know, criminalization of marijuana was for black folks.
Well, they rival marijuana, rival the cotton industry.
Hello, testing. Can you guys hear?
And it rivals the alcohol industry.
Okay, great.
So that's why they did it.
But I don't know if there's
Okay.
And they couldn't tax it, that's why they took away the seed from us. Until they able to take the seed from us, then they did what they could do.
Do you want me to advance the slides? Do you want to advance the slides?
I got that, but
I don't know if they're doing
Advance them. Well, yeah, if you want to stand here, right? You can talk. Or do you want me to do this part? Cool. No, just like for the presentation. I can like be.
Do you know what you're doing? She's supposed to be. She's not here, but
Yeah,
she's
this
here.
Oh, yeah.
I keep hearing all this we yeah. I be destroying scenes like that. It's not in my church, mister.
I don't know what this bad sauce was, but it's good. And not like hot sauce. Got a little tang to it.
All right.
thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Vanessa. This is Christina. And, yeah, we're.
Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Honestly, we really did this for all of us in here, for us to support each other and to celebrate each other. I'm fairly new to this game, so I'm here to learn from y'all, really. I just started recently organizing myself, and I still have a lot to learn. And so I'm so glad that there's such a plethora of knowledge and wisdom in this room that we can call upon. So thank you for being here. So I guess real quick, we're just an overview of what we're doing today. We already did the tour. I can't wait to hear what folks have learned. Unfortunately, Miss Teresa Scott, she's still on her way. So unless anyone wants to lead us in opening prayer, I'm down for that. But if we don't have any volunteers, we can move forward. You want to open us up in prayer? Okay. Okay, so you want to come up to the, because you can come on the microphone. And what's your name again?
Kimberly comes.
Oh, you're Kimberly Combs. Okay, sorry. Come. So really quickly, I just wanted to, I mean, this shouldn't be quick. It should be central to all that we do, but to acknowledge the land that we stand on, have a good one. I just wanted to acknowledge the Lenape people, and the fact that we are here today because of them, and we continue to do this work around displacement and removal so that all of us have a place to call home. And so I'm gonna give it up to Ms. Kim.
Good evening, all. All eyes closed, head bowed. Father God, we gather here today, this afternoon together, all of us from Niger, from around communities around Niger, and we come to gather to
put our thoughts together and come up with one thought, one movement, and one understanding. Father, bless us with our traveling mercies for ones that are on their way, and bless us with traveling mercies as we go home to our destination. Father God, we come and we call on you, Lord, because you are our source. You are the creator of all things, from the large to the small. You can move mountains. You can make things happen that we can't see. But long as we trust in you, Lord, as long as we rely on you, long as we pray and praise to you, Lord, because you are our creator, you are our source. We ask for your grace to fall on us that we can come together as one. In Jesus' holy name, amen.
Amen. My eyes have seen the coming of, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
We know Russell in the building.
That was so inspirational. Thank you very much. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much.
That's a nut there, right? We love him for it. Yes.
So real quick, we're gonna do a mini teach-in. I'm gonna kind of breeze through it because I know a lot of folks know this information, but for folks who are joining us for the first time, I hope that they find it informative, and then we'll hop into our panel. And so I guess just to center myself, I'm 33 now, and I've lived in public housing since I was 6 years old. No, I don't get teary-eyed. Public housing means everything to me. It's why I'm still here in New York City. I wouldn't be here in New York City. I wouldn't be able to afford the rent here in New York City if and so I originally moved into Queensbridge houses, and I lived a little bit in Astoria houses, and now for the last 20 years I live in Ravenswood houses. And so all I know is NYCHA. All I know is public housing. And despite all the stereotypes and prejudicial ideas around what public housing is, it is my place of love. It is my community. It's my everything. Trying so hard not to get teary. And now that I'm pregnant, it's even more important for me to really think about what housing stability looks like, not just for my family, but for all families, because it's what allows generations to continue. Outside of private home ownership, public housing is the only thing that grants us true housing stability and allows us to raise our families and actually have a sense of community, despite what it looks like externally. There ain't nothing like the hood. Y'all know what it is. We look out for each other, we take care of each other. And I think that's more evident now than ever before, especially after COVID. And so I think all we need is just some faith and some funding. And so just to contextualize, I'm part of Save Section 9, and one of the biggest things that we fight for is full funding of public housing. And we do that on a federal level. And there are some groups in here who do it on a state level and on a local level. And the whole point of us being here is to kind of bring all those folks from different spaces and places to re-strategize and to think anew, and honestly to support each other. And so how did we get here? As a lot of folks know, public housing, at least legally, was created in 1937 through the public housing law. And since, I guess, through the Civil Rights Movement and Fair Housing Act, since Black and Brown folks started having more access to it, we see a parallel defunding of public housing. I don't think it's any surprise. I think it also connects to all of our public goods, whether it's public education, public health and hospitals, housing, everything that we fought for to have access for, slowly became disinvested in. And moreover, we find that there are different strategies for private entities to make money off of what our public goods should have been. So I'm going to play a quick video that Save Section 9 created that can contextualize the history. You guys can hear okay? So for folks who have been organizing, I'm sure Russ is a very familiar face that we're not too fond of.
He sucks.
And his track
What's the
record
promise?
in Chicago and Minnesota and all different states and cities across the country really show that he's not really here for us, and that it's a larger initiative of privatization that honestly goes back to Reagan's administration. And I think it's important to note that the fact that sexist, racist, and classist ideologies have been utilized to justify the disinvestment of public housing is a political tool that they've been utilizing and continue to utilize. However, we're here to prove them wrong, right? I think over six, I think it's 60% of households are female headed, and NYCHA's 90% Black and brown, and so where would we be without our moms, grandmas, and aunties that have made this path for us, and prove them wrong every day that that those ideologies are false. I'm trying to exit this video. I'm just gonna press. Nope. There. Okay. So there's a little timeline to kind of summarize what the video discussed. But the two largest strategies that NYCHA's been utilizing is RAD, or also known as PACT in New York City, which is the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program, which has privatized already tens of thousands of units. And now NYCHA is pushing the Preservation Trust under their blueprint plan to further the privatization of public housing via transferring Section 9 units to a Section 8 subsidy platform, excuse me. And so a lot of us are familiar with RAD and PACT because we've been fighting against it. I think a lot of 1984, the book by George Orwell, and the double speak and the kind of conversations that happen when we use permanent affordability commitment together, and how much that's a farce for actually preserving public housing. And so under Section 9, NYCHA usually receives federal funding that goes to the maintenance, and 30% of our income goes to rents, which is supposed to go back to us. But under Section 8 or privately managed buildings, it's those payments go to the landlord and our rents go to the landlord. And what's more important is once Section 9 units become Section 8 units, they're now considered fair market rent prices. And so that the difference between our income and whatever the fair market rent is profit to be made for private landlords. And the largest concern is the fact that that money's not going to go back to us, and it probably won't go back to us. Okay, that kind of just summarized what I said. And so since the implementation of RAD Impact, we've had almost 16,000 units already converted. And under RAD Impact, the objective is to convert at least 62,000 units, although with the Preservation Trust, which we'll talk about in a moment, it'll include another 25,000 units. So little by little, they're trying to shave off what's available for Section 9. And so although private landlords are supposed to be managing our apartments now under RAD Impact, there's been a lot of research that shows that that hasn't really been the case, that in fact, private management has been worse than what NYCHA is. And for a lot of us, we know what NYCHA is. We know what it is to have open tickets for several months, if not over a year, and to have a lot of unresolved repairs. But we lose the legal accountability that Section 9 offers us, and that the recourse and transparency that exists under private landlordship is just not there. And so these are excerpts from the Human Rights Watch report that came out that really illuminates how RAD Impact has actually been a disservice and has made things worse. And so this is from Jessica DeVal. I think it summarizes what RAD Impact has done. I like to say it's like putting lipstick on a pig. I know that's an old saying, but it's making it look pretty, but there's still a lot of structural things that have not been met. But moreover, the negligence is further exacerbated in that private landlords aren't there and there's not a lot of accountability. Excuse me. There are also other reports that have come out on the failings of RAD Impact. I don't know if you want to say a few words, Christian.
Yeah, sure.
We have our in-house researcher, but she's very familiar with this work.
Should I?
Thank you.
I'll just be very brief. Basically, the Human Rights Watch is only the latest research report that documents some of the bad things related to RAD, like the erosion of tenants' protections and rights. But there have been previous studies. Citizens Housing Planning Commission Council was actually commissioned by NYCHA to do a study of some of the early RAD Pact deals. And they highlighted it as a success. This is great. But two of their critical findings find higher tenant turnover and longer wait times between when the apartments were re-rented out, right? And they just really didn't talk about those in that study, but that's NYCHA. So NYCHA also knows. You guys probably are all familiar with the City Limits article that found 80 evictions at Ocean Bay houses in the first year and a half after conversion. Enterprise Community Partners, which is one of the nonprofits that has been promoting RAD, also did a study on Ocean Bay houses and also found that evictions were higher. And importantly, in their study, they found Wavecrest, the private manager, put out the data, and they said they found 60 evictions. By contrast, NYCHA actually said there were only 15 or so evictions. So their data is very bad. The private manager says 60, and the progressive sort of objective researchers are saying 80 at Ocean Bay houses. So evictions are also pretty common. And the National Law Housing Project, as I'll just mention, very quick, as early as 2017, sent a long letter to Ben Carson, who was Secretary of HUD at the time, looking at multiple cities, and their conclusion basically was like, RAD is eroding tenants' rights and protections across cities. This has nothing to do with how it's being implemented in particular cities. It's actually the program that's flawed and the lack of oversight and really the lack of care of the government. So at this point, we have a growing mound of evidence that says Rad Pact is very dangerous for tenants. I think that's all I'm supposed to say. Sorry.
Christina will bring us back.
And so the latest tool that's being utilized is the Preservation Trust. I just want to shout out all the residents who have like been organizing, particularly against the trust, because without that pushback, there wouldn't even be any voting option available, even though we know that it's still a setup. But I think it's just a representation of the fact that we don't have to accept anything and everything, and that we can push back, and that there are small wins for us. And so, yeah, well, shout out to y'all. And so, as we know, Governor Hochul signed in the Preservation Trust into law. Yeah, boo. I don't know how she got it back in, but our biggest concern is the fact that it's using a debt model to fund housing, and that there aren't any actual protections for us, and say there's any default. And we know how New York City manages money, and anyway, and so 25,000 units are slated, although in the language there might be more added in the future, which is why we have to be vigilant. But like I said before, without the pushback, there wouldn't even be any possibilities for voting by residents. I think another huge concern is the fact that the governance of it will be out of our hands, even though aesthetically it looks like residents will have ability to vote. Hello, welcome, no problem. Listen, we made it along because we knew how we are on time. I was even a little late today, so like I said, thank you for coming. But with regard to the governance structure, it's majority mayoral appointees. And so there isn't actually a lot of democratic processes for us to choose our leadership and the direction of which the Preservation Trust is going to go through. And so through the transfer to the 25,000 units, NYCHA intends to use tenant protection vouchers. Excuse me. However, it's not clear if everyone's actually going to be a recipient of those vouchers. And I think what's also more telling is the fact that it's more of a tool for profit, essentially, because $650 will be added for repairs for each unit under the TPV. And so, like I said earlier, it was through resident pushback that a lot of we got to at least have a say in the fact that they can't just come through and take our apartments away, that residents have to at least give some form of consent. Although it's still debatable what that consent looks like and how it will be managed through the voting procedures, which is something we're still waiting for NYCHA to give a report back on December 16th. And here's just a quick synopsis of the differences, which is also parallel to the options in which NYCHA is giving us for those developments selected. For the trust, residents can choose between Rad Pact, the trust, or Section 9, or what they love to call the status quo. Obviously, we're not okay with the status quo, but we're not willing to relinquish our public housing rights under Section 9 and our protections. Moreover, we understand that this is state and federal investment in people, and that we don't want to forfeit our protections. And so, as I was saying earlier, there's a rumor that the Section 8 vouchers will be given to individuals, but there's no guarantee. Moreover, there's a difference between tenant protection vouchers and the Section 8 vouchers that actually protect the unit itself and not us. And so there's no guarantee that Section 8 will give us the protections in which NYCHA is saying will be afforded to us. Um, Lastly, these are a few of the concerns from residents to preserve public housing with regard to the trust. Like I said earlier, there's no protection for this debt financing scheme. At any moment, if there's any foreclosure, there's no safety, at least legally speaking, that can ensure that we won't lose our homes. Um, and then, like I said before, it moves the accountability and transparency further away from our public officials and from us, um, and essentially ends public housing as we know it. I know Marquise is here. Here you are. I don't know if you want to add a few words about where RPPH stands with regard to the trust. But if you feel you can, feel free, you can come up here and say a few words.
I'll say a couple of words from back here because I'll be on a panel.
Okay.
I don't know if we'll be able to hear you well.
The Zoom, because we have a few folks joining us online. But yay. Okay. All right.
His truth is carrying on.
I think from the first thing to understand is, right, there's no choice really that's being presented on the table, right? There is what we have now, what they are calling status quo, which reflects that they don't have any plans to like uplift public housing, save Section 9. And then what they're proposing as 2 and 3 choices are actually the same choice, right? It's stay in Section 9 or convert to Section 8 under both plans. And when we think about the difference between RAD PAC and the trust, in one instance, you have RAD and PAC that's transferring over public housing units to private developers, converting them to Section 8 and taking mortgages out on the property. Whereas in the trust, the housing authority essentially wants to act and have the same powers of a private developer in that it wants to be able to convert the units and it wants to be able to take a mortgage out on the property. The last thing I'll say is that as we are fighting, we are doing two things in regards to protecting public housing. One is calling for the full repeal of the Public Housing Preservation Trust. Yeah. But while we do that, yeah, clap it up. While we do that, right, and recognizing the fight that we have ahead of us, we also have to push to eliminate the most harmful pieces of the Public Housing Preservation Trust, like the ability to take out a mortgage of up to $10 billion on this property without having the city or the state step in to back it. The idea that we're not just fighting for the buildings, right? We're fighting for that community and those rights and protections that Christina spoke about, the 964 rules and regulations. So we are making sure that we have a list of budget demands, right? We still need funding for public housing, but we also have a list of legislative demands, and I'll be talking more about that during our panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so obviously our panel is like the main thing. So just breezing through this, what we can do a lot of things on different levels. At Safe Section 9, one of the things we do is lobby our congresspersons. And so later on after the panel, we're gonna have a little breakout in arts and crafts stuff for us to create some holiday cards to our representatives to let them know how we really feel and how important our voices are. We can also organize on a state level, which is what our PPH does. And for New York State, one of the biggest things we can do is keep them accountable on the trust legislation. Since it was made by them, it can be repealed by them, right? And then lastly, we can organize locally. And so I'm so glad that we have different panelists here from different organizations that can speak on what it looks like at each development, at each borough, and the fact that not everyone's gonna have the same answer on what they want for public housing, but we may have different dreams and visions, but the whole point is that we work together on making sure that that comes to reality. And so there are a few organizations here that are local and that we will have our panelists speak on behalf of. Just wanted to throw in that Safe Section 9 will be doing a lobby day training on January 4th. So we can sign you up if you're interested.
There's cards here with the info on that too.
And I know there's some folks here today who actually we got to go to DC during the summer and lobby our congresspersons. And I think that was really an empowering experience and event. And I hope that we can just build stronger so that come this following summer or perhaps spring, I'm not sure what we're choosing yet, but that we come together as a whole. And just lastly, throwing that out there that our next meeting will be on Wednesday, December 14th, if you want to join and get involved. And I just wanted to close out on this video before we hop into the panelists, because I think, oh, yeah. Well, everyone knows, well, most of the folks know Natasha. I met Natasha actually at the DC trip, and she's here recording because it's important that we archive all that we do, especially our dissent, because, you know, looking back, as you guys saw in the exhibit, it's really easy for people to think, oh, where were the residents? How did they really feel? Because often our voices are suppressed or erased, and it's important for this to go down in history that we're not going down without a fight. And and exactly. And so so Natasha's here recording, like, it's like 2-minute testimonies just really quickly on why public housing matters to you or what you love about public housing. Because what we hope to do with this information and footage is to create a public, a social media campaign that really changes the perception, external perception of what public housing is, and remind people that it matters and that we matter. So hopefully after the panel, if you have a few minutes, you can come over to Natasha's.
Upstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a room upstairs with a video booth that I've created, and I'll ask you 2 questions. So after the panel, everyone could just basically go upstairs and will Kristen be?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if you don't find Natasha, find me and I will show you where to go. I'll be her Korean people in there. And please, we strongly encourage everybody to do this. Like, this is very important, right? Like, one of the things that the fight is coming up against is like this degree of invisibility, right? And people are controlling the narrative around what public housing is. So this is really our attempt to kind of push back on that, right? And it requires each one of us to do just 2 minutes, answer a question from your heart. So there's no like preparation or anything. And you know, if everybody goes in 2 minutes, that's like, you might have to wait a half an hour, but that's fine. Come talk to me. I'm very friendly, you know, with the company. But please, this is so important. So important.
Yeah, your voice matters and your story matters. So I'm gonna play this video, and while it's playing, with the panelists, please come up and prepare.
Come on. Come on. Come on.
So shout outs to Goals and We Act who made that video, or good old Lower East Side. I always get teary eyed when I see that video because it hits home. I'm sure it does for all of us. And shout out to Miss Burnell who was in the video and here today. Um, well, thank you for that part of the presentation. We're gonna hop into the panel. So, can we give a warm applause to our panelists, please? I'm gonna.
Testing.
So I'm gonna we're gonna use these mics. So make sure that Zoom folks can hear us, okay? But I'm gonna ask each one of you to just share a little bit about your name, who you repping, or where, and how long you've been a public housing resident.
My name is Manny Martinez. I'm the resident council president for South Jamaica Houses. And I've lived in public housing my whole life, born and bred. In South Jamaica Houses, same apartment. And I'm also the Queens South District Chair for the Citywide Council of Presidents.
My name is Beverly McFarland. I am the resident council president for Senator Robert A. Taft Housing. I'm also on the steering committee for RPPH. I wear so many hats. I can't even tell you. I'm a county committee for the 68th District, Part D, and we're newly appointed to Rat Landon Audit Committee, NYCHA Audit Committee. And I lived in public housing about 22 years.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marquise Jenkins. I am a community organizer. I've lived in public housing my entire life, and I am fortunate to work with so many resident leaders from across the city to form and sustain the residents to preserve public housing. And we have been fighting for 3 years now, pushing back on the Public Housing Preservation Trust.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brenda Temple. I'm a member of SICA, Committee for Independent Community Action. The founder is Dr. Lenora Fulani. I'm a community activist, and I've been working on this NYCHA fight, this NYCHA crisis for the past, I would say, 8 years. And I live in Oceanside Apartments in Rockaways. I've been there for 16 years. And I wear a lot of hats in the community. And I'm just glad to be here fighting for my community, the residents, what I call the hardworking, low-income, essential workers that have always been essential in our communities. And we deserve a place to live and to stay because we are the backbone of this city.
Come on.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Vernell Robinson. Does that sound muffled? Yes, I know. I feel it. Okay, sorry. So my name is Vernell Robinson, and I live in an 11-mile community of Rockaway. Been living in Rockaway in public housing for over 50 years. And in my community, as with Brenda, I wear many hats from the community board to NAACP. I'm on a board of my resident council. And I'm here representing today NYCHA Neighbors, Helping Neighbors. It's a newly formed group of NYCHA residents in Far Rockaway that broke off from Community Voices Heard. For 20 years, I was a member. I was a member of Community Voices Heard, and for 20 years, we've been fighting for funding for public housing in one shape, form, or another. But for the last, since 2017, I'll say, NYCHA Neighbors Helping Neighbors have been working in the Far Rockaways on repairs. Thank you.
Well, that actually kind of segues into our next question is what's something that you've been working on, and or I guess what's something that you would like to add to the larger struggle for public housing. I just wanted to add that I'm also learning to wear a lot of hats, and it's a lot. But I'm also part of the resident association at Ravenswood Houses. This is my first time ever being part of it. I'm learning a lot, and you think there's politics in just city government. There's so many politics internally, and I'm still learning a lot. But I'm hoping to unlearn some stuff together. But we can talk about that a little later. But if there's anything that that you didn't mention that you're working on right now, whether it's local level, addressing gas outages or water, which is something that a lot of us are dealing with right now, especially heating, or if you're doing something with state representatives or federal.
Great. I just want to say one more thing, though. Even though I do sit on the Citywide Council of Presidents. I'm not speaking on behalf of the Citywide Council of Presidents. I just want to make that clear. What I'm working on right now is there are a lot of redistribution issues that are supposed to be intended for Section 9, where the money is supposed to come back and help people in the community through home ownership, through employment, through contracting, and also through making sure that you have a path to a moderate class income status, where you can go from low income, very or extremely low income, and get to a point where you can consider home ownership or consider developing a business. A lot of people don't understand that, or a lot of people are not aware that if you are a resident business, the public housing agency, and this is across the country, which includes the New York City Housing Authority, they have to have a special procurement process because they would have to, given that you're a qualified company, they would have to contract with you up to $1 million. There's supposed to be a home ownership equity program where there's supposed to be a path to home ownership. And a lot of that home ownership would be you purchasing your own apartment as an equity asset for you to move on. There's a big difference in you paying rent and you paying a mortgage, where your rent is for the use of the month, your mortgage is asset. And we have to start having that kind of mentality. The reason why I bring those things up is because using my position as citywide council, on the Citywide Council of Presidents, I am engaged in developing new policies within NYCHA that would help engage our communities better with that. Another thing that I am also pushing is for public housing residents to become a protected class in New York City. If we continue to disregard the opportunities that we have in Section 9 through these redistribution, these economic opportunities that we have through the federal redistribution expectation, then it appears that we're fighting for Section 9 for the same reasons that Section 8 is coming in on, right? The 30% of your household income and, some type of stability. But Section 9 is way more. Section 9 is supposed to reinvest in you, in the residents, in the households, in the new generations coming up, and in the old generations coming back. Because let's not forget how our communities have been impacted. There was I think Christine said 60% of the head of households are single women. A lot of that came from Joe Biden's crime bill, right? That excessively impacted our community and separated and broke up our families. So I am fighting for that, and I thank you guys for your time. Appreciate it.
Well, I would like to piggyback on that because you have inspired me to also fight for us resident leaders, resident public housing residents to be protective classes. So I too am fighting for the state because of the Rockefeller law, and now they are making the sale of marijuana legal. We want to be a part of the state taxes, so that will be our reparations for all right for the taxes. So we will make sure, we want to make sure that we want to be part of the taxes that are going to come out of this policy. We don't want the taxes to go to them. It needs to go to the people that was most affected by it.
100%.
Also in my community, I am fighting very hard to make sure that public houses stay public under Section 9 and nothing else. I have teachings once a week by Zoom or in person that are, with the the Nitro Real Talk curriculum that's educating our residents on the language, because of course Nitro will give residents these booklets of what they deem is beautification, but they don't know the negative impact that it will do for our communities if they are not public housing, if they are not, if they stay under Section 8. And we want to make sure that our residents know about these choices and educate them so they will know the proper choice in this safe Section 9.
Thank you.
So, at the Resident Superserved Public Housing, we are fighting the Public Housing Preservation Trust, but we're also fighting for adequate funding for public housing on the state level. And we put together a draft platform, and we want to work with all of the groups and all of the leaders in this room to really come together and stand behind this platform and make sure that we push it. And that's our short-term plan, but it's a powerful plan that we're moving towards. In my personal vision and in my personal hope, I want to use the Resident Superserved Public Housing to form a political base. When we think about the population that lives in public housing, 500,000 residents here in New York City alone. When we think about all the issues that exist, I cannot think of one issue that a public housing resident is not impacted by. Name any issue, and I will find you a resident who is suffering, who is struggling with that issue. 1% of the public housing population can determine who the mayor of New York City will be. 1% of the New York State population can determine who the governor would be. Now, this might sound like a big dream, but the reality is we are halfway there. We have record numbers of public housing residents who are registered to vote. We have seen these numbers come out when we elected President Barack Obama. But what we need to do, and what our job will be, is to mobilize the public housing residents to vote in local elections, because those are the elections that matter most. It was New York State that decided to place this Public Housing Preservation Trust on us. And when we took our trip to Albany, And when we started talking to our elected officials, there is one legislator who keeps coming to mind, and that is Assemblywoman Rosenthal. And what she said to me that really broke my heart was that public housing residents don't vote. And not only was that an inappropriate response to what we were asking for, it was heartbreaking to have her say that to me in response to us asking for the adequate funding that we need. The nerve, the audacity. And so now that woman becomes the chair of the housing committee within the assembly. And I want to make sure that when we go back up to Albany from January to June in 2023, that we are going to show her just how powerful, politically powerful public housing residents are. Because election season is every single year, and we're going to do it.
Thank you. Okay, so the Committee for Independent Community Action, what we focus on, and we work along with all the other organizations as well, but I noticed that each organization has a certain goal, well, the same goal is saving Section 9. You're working on different
We have different niches. We all have our power.
niches, is that what you said? Okay, niches, so to speak. And what we at Committee for Independent Community Action do is we go around to the different developments and we teach. We teach people to become leaders, everyday citizens, neighbors, just grassroots people. We teach you that if you are interested in what's going on in your community, if you care about your own family and your neighbors, then we're here to teach you to become leaders. And so what that entails is we have meetings every other week, every other Monday from 7 to 8:30, from 7 to 8. And then, I also jump in the RPPH meetings on Sundays, and then there's Save Section 9 meetings. As an individual, I jump in on all of them because I want to know all the different techniques and tools that they're using so that I can be educated on how to reach my residents and my development. So I'm out in Far Rockaway, and I do door knocking, which that's what we learned in SECA. I pass out flyers. I'm a board member of my resident association, so I ask the residents to come to the board meetings, and we constantly speak about what's going on with the NYCHA fight. We call it a NYCHA fight and a NYCHA crisis, because that's just what it is. And it's very hard, it's very disheartening as well, to get people out. And so we constantly are tweaking our techniques, and I'm looking more so at saying, if you're not involved, you're going to be evicted. Basically, I want to say something that will shake somebody up, that will shake them up, because this is a reality. I live across the street from Ocean Bay Apartments. It's already been RAD converted. Burnell from Neighbors Helping Neighbors did a survey a year or two ago, and it shows that, like the PowerPoint said, more people in Ocean Bay development itself have been evicted than all of the residents of public housing in all 5 boroughs, only in that one development under RAD. And right now I have people crying to me because I had warned them that this would happen. But the thing is that their resident association signed the papers before they really knew what the ramifications were of section, going section 8. And the rents are going up. People are getting jobs, and right away, as soon as the management finds out that people have jobs making more income, their rent goes up. And if it goes up above the ceiling of Section 8, they lose the Section 8, then it goes up to market rate. So people that were paying $500 a month are now paying $12,000, $15,000, $17,000, $100 a month. And so they're not able to continue to live in their apartments, or either they're throwing out their relatives or children that need to live with them, that have a part-time job, and that some are still in school. They have to throw them out or ask them to leave because they're not able to afford, the rent that's from the private management. Under Section 9, we have so many other privileges and rights. We have so many rights. And when a person in your house gets a job, they're able to keep that job, and they can tell the management office of NYCHA that they have a job, but they give them a year, 12 months onto that job to put them on the recertification, and then they'll start raising the rent according to the income of 30%. They give you a chance. Who knows if you're going to keep the job after probation, or if it'll work out or not. But not only that, we're talking about having a child in the apartment that maybe has a record, under private development, under privatization, they don't give you as much of an option to reinvent yourself and to be able to stay with your family. But NYCHA does. NYCHA has programs where you can go get your whatever help you need, mental health, rehabilitation, job seeking, job readiness, whatever you need, and you're able to stay in your family's house and be loved on and be supported. I happen to know people that live in Long Island it's a whole completely different situation, if you know what I mean. And they have children that are on drugs, they have children that commit crimes, they have children that do a lot of nefarious things. But their parents are able to pay to get them out of these situations. They don't go to jail, and if they go to jail, they only stay a day. We don't have those type of resources. And it seems like every time we turn around, there's a monkey wrench put in ahead of us to stop us from developing and growing and seeking and trying to get what we deserve. So why we say keep Section 9 is because we are a people that have always struggled generation after generation. We are a people that have been marginalized from every turn, and we still are. And we are a people that deserve a chance. And people say with a smile they're giving us a chance, but they're really not. Okay, and we all know this. We're all witnesses to how life is for us. So what we're demanding, we're not asking, we're demanding that they leave us alone, that they, because if it were up to me, I would say boycott everyone that lives in public housing and those that care. Boycott a day or two off of your job and see how that job would not be able to function without us. But we're not there yet. Right now, we're still marching. Seekers marching. We're rallying. We have town hall meetings. We have meetings on Zoom. And we'll join any other organization, and we have going up to Washington, Albany, wherever you have to go. But our main thing is coming into your neighborhoods and asking your resident associations and creating leaders that can go and create more leaders and more leaders and more leaders so that we can get the word out, because the voting process is coming faster than we think, and people need to be educated and informed about saying no to Red Pact, no to the trust, and yes to Section 9. They need to understand that, and we need to do it now, yesterday actually. So if you want to get involved with learning how to be a leader, please contact me at CICA, CICA All-Stars at CICA allstars.com, or Brenda Temple. Thank you.
Okay, so to share with you all what NYCHA Neighbors Helping Neighbors is doing, I like to first share with you like a report that all of us that were with CVH at the time of 2019, because in our meetings, residents were complaining about repairs, needing them to get done, and so on and so forth. We decided we were going to put together this campaign. And through this campaign, we put together a report. Unfortunately, we couldn't push the report. Sandy hit. When Sandy hit, I mean, everything just, and we all know how everything went, right? And as we were trying, we had 75 members at the time, and we thought we were going to regroup, but that wasn't the case. It wasn't the case at all, for a lot of reasons. After meeting with Marsha Fudge with Community Voices Heard, and I complained about NYCHA fast tracking the VAD program out in Far Rockaway. They opened a report, an investigation. CVH midway through, left I don't know, left me standing, I guess, I don't know. But I felt abandoned, you know, and ended up having to uh, do things, you know, and by the grace of God, Justice for All Coalition came to our rescue out in Far Rockaway, you know, and so when NYCHA decided they were going to target the, the entire Far Rockaway and convert it to RAD, and we had those meetings with HUD. Ultimately, they found that the charges were unsubstantiated, but NYCHA backed off. And when NYCHA backed off from wanting to, well, I think they're giving us 2 years. I think there's whatever, but they backed off, giving us enough time to regroup. And in our regrouping, NYCHA Neighbors Helping Neighbors evolved. Okay, and through our regrouping, we held a series of meetings. I bought this to share, but I can't. Well, anyway, we went through a whole series of putting the survey together and coming up with problems and flaws that we found in Ocean Bay, across from where she was just talking about in Far Rockaway. And we had a series of meetings. Like I said, we had a town hall where we were trying to get elected officials to respect and to honor our community demands, of which I'm gonna tell you guys did not go well at all. So we had to regroup, and what we said we need to do, and goes to a little what Marquise was talking about, and what we're doing now is we're trying to wake up the sleeping giant. In public housing. Right. So we are embarking on a neighbor empowering neighbor project where we're going to be door knocking, phone calling, meeting with our neighbors, you know, informing them, encouraging them, empowering them to get involved, not only in the resident council meetings, but the monthly meetings that Neighbors Helping Neighbors are gonna be having to train people. We're gonna, Marquise, you're gonna be instrumental in this. I'm telling you, Christine, all you guys are gonna be instrumental in all of this, because we can't do it alone. We have to all come together. And the only way that I know that we can do, and that's gonna be another question. I can't speak about that now. Okay, excuse me. Well, we have to come together, all right? Because like Marquise was saying, could you imagine, guys, really, 1% of public housing residents determining who the next mayor is going to be? We can do it, and I have faith in that. I believe we can do it. So we're going to start this project out in Far Rockaway, and I'm hoping that you all will jump on board and start doing the same in your respective communities, because it's going to be the only way we're going to affect and change things. If we don't get residents out and involved and voting, we can just hang it up. You know what I'm saying? We have to. You know, all that you know, personality clashes and all that other stuff that's in the way of a lot of communities, we have to overlook and come together and begin to find ways that we can tackle this monster that's attacking us. All right. Yeah, yeah.
Actually, could you pass it to your right? Because we want to introduce Miss Teresa Scott. I call her a Mama Bear sister friend. She's instrumental in Safe Section 9 as well as Neighbors Helping Neighbors and repping Redfern houses. Go ahead.
Question?
Well, I'm sorry, duh. Our question is, what are you working on right now? Or what would you like to work on?
I'm working on trying to figure out how to stay alive in nature, because they treat us like we are inhuman. That's the first thing. Second of all, if we call, like we had an incident where we didn't, that young lady right there, she didn't have water for like 4 days. And I was on the phone and the manager never called me back. She did get it straightened out, but she's a senior and she shouldn't have to be putting towels on the floor to things. So, and I'm quite sure we have a lot of stories, but the main thing we're working on is speaking to the government and to the congressmen, to the legislators, to get them involved, because a lot of them said they was with us, but then when we had a town hall meeting, they changed their mind. And so what I realized is that this work is very challenging, very tedious. You want to like say, what the F? Like, I cut you off. I ain't gonna say the word today, but I do say that. But you like, why should I do this? But I wanted to relocate to Georgia. And the lady told me in Georgia, like, don't you dare try that because you won't have no services down there.
That's right.
That's the first thing. You're not gonna get services right away. And so I'm in NYCHA, and I love NYCHA. I'm alive because of NYCHA because I was living at home, in my mother was schizophrenic and we didn't know. And so I was having a bad day one day, and someone said to me, the spirit said, you got a NYCHA apartment. So I called NYCHA. They said yes. When I walked into my apartment, I felt like I was at home, but they have not made it to be home. We deal with police abuse. We have been told to go back into our cage. Like this is how the police talk to us. We are harassed. We have been told we can't sit outside because we don't have a right to sit outside. Now this is the place where we pay rent, but this is the kind of stuff that NYCHA allows. There's a lot of I personally feel they mismanage the money because it's a lot of buildings. Like we got a brand new boiler system last year, right? We was freezing last year with a brand new boiler system. I was freezing the other day with a brand new boiler system that National Grid took over, which is full of shit. I'm gonna say that word because it is. They took over and they do not know how to work the system. So you have seniors, disabled people who are freezing. Last year was the first time I froze ever in my life. Second time in my life I froze in an apartment. But I could have left, but I was like, I can't leave my neighbors here and to make sure, I called, and I make sure we called so many numbers. We was up to like 12 midnight last year trying to get heat. And now we having that same problem. We was told that Miss Kim Combs is our president. She's over there in that corner, y'all. And we was told at our last meeting that our heating system, the brand new system, is not gonna be fixed until January. Now that doesn't make any sense. So that's right there is mismanagement. They have done a lot of work in the house. There's no accountable system. So it's not because NYCHA don't have the money. It's just that they just get anybody to fix up the shit, and then whatever happens, and it's like they treat us terrible. The managers, when you call the manager is not working with you to make sure you get it. So, and I'm quite sure if we ask different people in this building, they could say the same thing. The one good thing about having Save Section 9 is that it affords people to be able to have a place to stay without being kicked out. We don't work with people just here in New York. We work with people all over the country, and they're living horrible compared to us. I'm telling you, we got it good in New York. So this is why we need to gather together in New York and fight to keep our homes, because we could end up like other people in other states. And they're saying that Section 8 is the way, but there are people, we have tapes and videos. We can share with you tapes and videos where people are living with holes in their walls and they on Section 8. So how was Section 8 better? And my feeling is that if NYCHA is such a good tenant, why are they allowing us to live? How can I trust them when they've already given me bad service? How can I trust them to take care of me good if they haven't done a good job taking care of me right here with being the ownership? And that's my issue is that how can I trust you to send me someplace else? A lot of people who went to this RAD or PAC, whatever, and trust, they're not living no better. There's people in Far Rockaway who they asking people. I forgot what building went RAD, whatever one they went to. Ocean Bay, yes, Ocean Bay are asking people to help them because now people are getting kicked out because they did not understand what they were taking. Not only that, some of these TA boards are making decisions for us, which is not correct either, because how can one board, which is about 6 or 7 people, make a decision for me? No, I got a big mouth. Come ask me what I want. We'll never ask what we want. We'll never ask, like, hey, what would you like? What would you like? No, we are supposed to be sitting. Thank you to Mr. Manny. He's the one who's teaching us and tells us stuff. I didn't know nothing about no Section 9 till I met Mr. Manny, and then he introduced me to Safe Section. Then I met with Verna, all of them. I didn't know none of that. I did not know the stuff that I was allowed to have because it was never told to us. When we was under another list, we did not know that we were supposed to be part of sitting down with NYCHA before they even bring a contract, that the TA board is supposed to be sitting there with you. None of these things are being done. So how can we trust NYCHA to give us a proper place or even understand what we need if they're not even following the rules of what they're supposed to be following. So how can they help us if they don't know how to follow the rules? If they mismanaging money? I could tell you, we got benches a couple years ago. Do you think they came to see the benches, the paint that the money that they put in the benches? The benches look horrible. And I bet you that was $1 million contract. Even with our park, we've been supposed to have a park for 2 years. So us, a lot of people, they don't care about us. And if we don't sit together as NYCHA residents and fight in the allies, we are not gonna have a place to stay. And I don't have no place to go. I ain't going back home with my dad. I'm 64 years old. How I look like living in my father's house? First of all, it's not wheelchair accessible. That's the first thing. So how can I go back to a place of my place that I love? When I get sick, you know who come helps me? Not my family, my neighbors. My neighbor got my key to come in my apartment and help me get in the bed when I can't get in the bed. Not my family, because my family don't live near me. So if I don't have a NYCHA neighbor with my key to get him out, I'm in trouble, y'all. And until we stick together and gather together, I'm not giving up. I am not giving up. I came from Far Rockaway. I was stuck for 2.5 hours on 155th Street and Amsterdam Avenue. I could have said, hey, take me back home. I'm like, no, hell no.
Come on.
My ride is coming at 5:19, but I'm here.
All right.
So this is the kind of tenacity, and I'm not bigging myself up. It's God that got me here.
Come on.
That's the first thing. God got me here. And that's why I'm still here. That's why I'm fighting. So I need your support. I will go with my wheelchair and we can knock on doors. We need to do this. And you know what, the other thing that I'm gonna stop talking. The problem with us is that we have been beat up so bad that we're numb. We think this is normal behavior. This is not normal behavior. It is not normal for you to be treated like you be treated, but we sit back and we be quiet and we don't say nothing. We just take it. I called my neighbor last year. They was freezing last year. Did you think they said, hey? I said, did you put a ticket in? They said, no. I said, well, damn it, let's put the ticket in right now. Let's put a ticket in right now because we should not be freezing. My family was mad at me because I refused to go sit in the conference. But I was not going to leave my seniors. I was not going to leave them and don't help them because that's not what I do. So I put on my pajamas. I put on my coats. I put on my electric oven, which I probably should not have done. That's the only way I can stay warm. Right. But we cannot sit back. We have to dig down into their souls and get them back to want to fight because that's what's happened. And these legislators is not helping us like they said they was. We voted them in, so we need to kick their ass out if they don't do right. We need to get them out if they don't do right. Some of us need to run. Some of us need to run for these positions and treat us right and show people how to work. Go to their office. I'm a disability advocate. We went to the offices. We rallied their office. We blocked their office. We laid in wheelchairs in front of Washington. That's the old Tricia need to come back. That one we had the wheelchairs laid out in front of Washington on the floor. We had bodies laid out across the floor. They could not. We shut Capitol down because we did not play. And that's the way we got to get back that old way, y'all, of getting in front of them offices. When that congressman go, no, Negro, you not, excuse me, Negro, white, you're not coming out your door until you hear me. Get in front of the door and block them so they can't come up. No, we ain't kicking the door, Miss Brenda. Stand in front of the door, don't let them out, and I'm complete. That's it.
Miss Beverly, ready, boy? Thank you. I'm Spartacus.
I'm Teresa Rainstone, I'm not Spartacus.
Thank you. I love you.
Yeah, thank you, Teresa. Yeah, we have to make some radical moves.
Burn it down.
I wanted to mention something that's very important that SECA is working on. We're trying to get all the information we can about an option other than getting the funding from the federal government to fund the NYCHA and the repairs, and also working with the controller to audit NYCHA and get all the money that they're holding on to. So we're talking about resident management. We want to begin a resident management training, and one of our elected officials, Khalil Anderson, is on board with us. He wants us to let him know how he can go about getting the people together to train us for resident management, which will mean having the developments be incorporated, correct? And there are a few ways of doing it, and it's not a very easy thing to do. But if we get enough residents, enough of a vote of the residents that say they want to run their own developments, then we could do this. And that would mean that we would run the either the landscapes, the maintenance, the janitorial, the management office, the billing. We can choose which part of the makeup of public housing that we want to manage. And that way we keep our Section 9 and we have a voice and a say in things that go on there.
See, that's the table. That's 24 CFR 964.120. Resident management. That's right. Come on now. Say it again. Thank you.
So I do see some hands up.
Danny's been talking to me at night.
We are planning to do some questions and community conversation. We just have a few more questions. No, it's all good. I don't even know where to begin. Well, when Miss Beverly was talking, it made me remember when I was out in Oakland and I was learning about community land trust there. I don't want to screw it up. I think it's the Sogorea Te Land Trust, and it was created by indigenous women who still live in Oakland. And they created what's called the Shumi land tax. And so people who live in what's considered Oakland can actually opt in to when they do their taxes to giving some money there. I just think there's so many possibilities that we're not thinking of. No shade to home ownership, but like what would community land trusts look like? What would land stewardship outside of private ownership or single family households look like? I don't have the answer. But I think there's so many possibilities that we're not thinking of that can ensure that everybody wins, right? Because I mean, I'm hoping one day maybe I can own a piece of land, but then on the other hand, I want everyone to be able to access that, no matter what their income is, no matter what their age or ability is. I don't have the answer, but I think there's just so many possibilities that we can definitely look towards our indigenous brothers, sisters, and siblings that they're doing, that we can hopefully work together, because the way the state works for us, well, it doesn't work for us, right? And that's part of the issue. So I guess I was thinking of that and the exhibit that we saw earlier. And so one of my questions is, for those who did get to peek the exhibit, what stood out to you as still relevant for today? And so we don't have to go every single person, but someone who's really like, I did not know this, and this is eye-opening to me. If you want to, would anybody want to share the exhibit, the undesigned, the red line? It's okay. You saw the exhibit? Is there anything that stood out to you?
The exhibit was very, very nice, and it was very informative, and I truly appreciated it. One thing in my research and in this fight that I've been engaged in with NYCHA is, and a lot of people don't realize it, if you look at the 1940 redlining map, right, for New York City, and you look at the New York City Housing Authority project map or development map. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to say something about that too. It looks like you could put one right over the other, and it's exactly the same. So not every public housing development is in a red line area, but every red line area has a public housing development in it. In New York City, we are the most school segregated city in the country.
Yes.
Out of 3,600, over 3,600 cities in the country, right? New York City is number one. And so each of those schools, or most of those schools, is next to a public housing development. And then when you was talking about land trust just now, that's what resident management. See, the difference between Section 8 and Section 9, and I think this is what we don't understand, and this is why we're having struggles with this fight, is making this differentiation. Section 9 is intended as an economic redistribution plan for the community. Section 9 was amended in 1969. Section 9 is the only civil rights era economic mobility and home ownership equity bill that this country has. The only. This is why they're trying to dismantle it. They're trying to take away opportunities for you to become economically mobile, for you to become homeowners, and for you to become community strong, where you get to own and reinvest in your community. They don't want to see strong communities, especially here in New York City, where you have the largest public housing portfolio in the country. Right now, they're talking about privatizing 62,000 units under RAG and another 25,000 under the trust. You still have 80,000 units of public housing left in the city, which is still number one. The second largest public housing agency is in Puerto Rico with 50,000. So even if you cut us in half, we're still the biggest. This is why they're scared, because this is so much opportunity here for us. This is the only public housing agency that gets the amount of billions that comes into our community intended for us at that amount. That's what fears. That's why they're scared of us. They're scared that we're going to wake up and actually realize what Section 9 is and start taking advantage of it. Because once that happens, that means that we start taking over our communities. This is not about low income. This is not about, it is in the protection of it, but this is about us taking the next step into independence. Be it if we're going to do community land trust. And this preservation trust came from that. I remember sitting in a meeting with with FHA. So NYCHA has FHA homes, and some of those homes are subsidized under Section 9. And those families came and sat down with NYCHA to have a discussion to discuss the access to home ownership. And in that meeting, they asked me to sit down in that meeting. This was before I was citywide, but I was a resident council president for South Jamaica Houses, and we was in conversations. And they brought up this model. This was before Greg Russ came in, before any conversation of legislation, anything. This was before the blueprint for change, before they even had this, and they was trying to put 110,000 units on it. And they were talking about the state owning the land and then giving the buildings, the properties away to the community. This is where that comes from, right? So the city owns the land, and the state is trying to now put our homes on auction, right? And so the last thing I'm gonna say too is so people understand. In the legislation, it says perpetual low-income housing. RAD is low-income housing, and this here is a waiting room for RAD, for privatization. They tell you right now, no, we're gonna keep it this way, but ultimately in the next 10 years, you're gonna have developers coming in, because RAD has a unit cap of 455,000. And right now, there's only 100,000 units left, and this is for the whole country. And so they're not gonna come in and put 100,000 units just in New York City, because they gotta max it out. So this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to convert everything into Section 8 so that they could ultimately privatize. Does anybody have some with the undesigned?
I got a question. Section line, undesigned and red line, anything stood out for you guys?
Well, we're about to open it up in a little bit. I just have
okay.
one last question, and then we'll do a community conversation. I lost my train of thought.
4:15.
Okay. Well, I couldn't help but think of the word self-determination as well as collective determination when you were speaking. And I think that's the difference between Section 8 and Section 9. Section 9 it allows for self-determination and collective determination, instead of putting all of our eggs in one basket. I forget the saying, when it comes to being dependent on the state and or private entities. I think what I was thinking about is that prior to the blueprint, a lot of the policies focused on quote unquote poverty deconcentration. And so it's so interesting that now they're tuning a whole new tune when it comes to Section 8 and low income housing. And I'm considering what area median income, the index, looks like. I question how affordable is affordable housing, and the importance for us to differentiate the struggle to protect public housing and how it's not the same as ensuring that there's affordable housing in New York City, because affordable housing doesn't usually include our income levels.
Affordable to whom?
Exactly, exactly. And I forgot my train of thought, but but I guess what we can end on this question and then open it up to everyone else is, what is your dream for public housing and why does it matter to you? I know that we've shared a little bit here and there, but if you could close your eyes and just envision, what does it look like in 10, 20, 30 years? What does that picture look like to you? What does it smell like? What does it feel like? All of that.
Manny as planetary leader.
Well, I think we need to eliminate the New York City Housing Authority. I think that public housing, I think public housing should be under the control of the people, under resident management. This is what the whole intention is, and I believe that it's time for us to realize that.
And I believe that NYCHA, first of all, this trust is in violation of our rights, first of all. And we really have to, resident leaders have to come together and go to federal court in HUD saying we want to put in the Article 78 because there's a active consent decree out there. So we will have to piggyback on, as resident leaders, we have to piggyback on that consent decree, fighting and stopping the trust. Because in the 964 regs and also in the trust legislation, they were not supposed to move forward in anything because there's a federal active lawsuit that they have not satisfied. More importantly, the monitor also stated that they haven't satisfied and they have not moved the needle on the record in the 4 years and it's getting ready to expire next year. So we have to move forward and go into court and say, just like you have a notice to show cause if you were moving out, that they didn't do anything in your apartment. We as residents and resident leaders should be going into court and saying a notice to show cause to say that this was illegally, this trust was illegally formed and the state and the city had no jurisdiction to start moving forward with anything when there's an active lawsuit.
That's because they didn't mitigate lead, mold, pests, unreliable elevators and heating. And they're looking to
get the money and make those necessary repairs.
The roaches, the rats, the lead, the mold, all of those things, right, is what we want to get rid of. Making sure that we have resident ownership and control, as Benny described. But the one thing that we all agree on with all of those issues that exist, and in some cases, the terrible conditions of having our ceilings fall on us, not being able to take a bath, having to use the oven to heat ourselves up, having to boil water to bathe ourselves. The one thing that we all have in common, right, and that I want to make sure stays, is this love for public housing. Amen. Right? This love for community. When I think and I dream, I'm reminded of what forgive me, I forgot your name. What Teresa said, that got us all kind of warm and fuzzy in the heart about having the neighbors take care of her, right? Like as a young man growing up in public housing on Turkey Day, I would go up and down the staircases, right? Because the floor had the double eggs that I love, and they only make them on Turkey Day, right? When I go next door, it's the peach cobbler that I can only get once a year, right? That's the type I grew up. But that's what I think about when I close my eyes and I think about public housing. I think about the community that exists in public housing that sadly doesn't really exist in any other community, because we are an extended family, and so that's what I envision when we think about public housing now and public housing in the future.
I love that.
It made me want to sing "We Are Family."
I love that because yes, we were a village and we still are a village, and I do love my community as well. I remembered this past Thanksgiving, I had a Spanish neighbor come and bring me a plate of food. I had a neighbor from upstairs come and bring me food, and I got a turkey from the resident association. I'm just saying that there was love all around, and we do share our ups and downs. You know, we do share our wisdom and our triumphs. And the thing that I would love to see in 10 years and beyond is like what it used to be when I grew up in Ravenswood in the 60s and 70s. Community, didn't matter what color you were, what race or what religion, but we were there, we were working hard, you know, our parents were working hard, we got along, we played together, we had a quality of life. When you called and you had something wrong with your apartment, the issues were taken care of. So I say what I'd like to see is resident management actually flourishing and working for all of public housing in the United States. And I'd like to see that we are using this living situation, this low income living situation as a pedestal, how do you call it?
Stepping stone.
You call it a stepping stone, but for so many of what? It could be a catalyst for so many young people that are coming behind us, and that they would go on to college, and that they would go up and out, but that we're able to afford to allow them to go to schools, trade schools, different kinds of activities, because we can afford to live in a place that reflects our income. And as long as there's systemic racism, there should always be public housing. And you know that there will always be systemic racism. And so that when they close the doors on us, they're securing our spot in public housing, low income, and they need leave us alone to love on each other and to live our life the best we can.
Okay, so when I close my eyes, like Marquise, I think of how things used to be, right? And like what Brenda was just explaining. You know, in the 60s and 70s, public housing was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. People got along, you know, we looked out for each other. I mean, literally, you know, you couldn't get away with anything without somebody coming and telling on you. You know what I'm saying? And like in every family, there's some dysfunctionality. You know, I see that in public housing. And my dream and my wish is that it goes away. That we begin to work at that thing that keeps us apart, that thing that keeps us from working together. You know, whatever this thing is, you know. But my vision is for us to be unified so that there's a voting bloc. So that we do get the respect that we so desperately deserve. You know, so real short and sweet, just that there's unity, that we come together.
Well, my dream is to own my building. That's what my dream is. My second dream is to have programs that are for kids and parents where they can come, because these parents, I'm a parent, I need a lot of help. And sometimes we focus on the seniors and stuff like that, but these young people need some help. And we need to be able to talk to them in their language, to ask them what they need, and that's what's missing. We don't know how to communicate with each other. We don't respect each other. And so we have allowed the spirit of nature to take over us. That's what the problem is. Because now we're treating each other like nature now we're treating each other like nature's treating us. So we have to relieve that spirit of nature off us. That's the first thing we got to do. We need to do some deep praying. We need to pray over our communities, because there's some wickedness that's going on in these communities. And that's what the problem is that we have lost the touch. Because a little boy told me one day, he was like, he jumped on the back of my accessory. I was like, boy, get your behind. He was like, I said, let me tell you something. When I get this bus, I'm gonna bust your behind. He was like, I'm gonna tell mama. I said, tell your mama my address is 142830. Well, I told him my address. And tell her to come to my house, okay? Because I'm gonna tell you was on the back of the accessory acting a fool, okay? I said, so, and they know me. The drug dealers know me. They know me good. When they see me, hey, y'all, that's Miss Teresa, pull your pants up. Stop, okay? Yes, because that's what I do with them. I pray with them. I'm not lying. I pray with them, because I could have been a drug dealer. Let me tell you something. Our children Our young men, they need us. That's what we need. We need to reach out to them because they are our future. If we don't teach them what we teach them, and how they're gonna know how to take it to the next level. But I plan on living till I'm 20 years old. I'm gonna be around here for a long time. Sexy and beautiful and black, you know. So, but the main thing that we need is that we need to lift each other up. We need to let me tell you something. I don't care what I do. You don't even know we don't know what nobody comes from. And we gotta stop being so judgmental. That's what I would love for the judgment to go. I would love that. I don't care what she do. I have been hugging, I used to hug crackheads. And they would smell it and I did not care. You know why? Because that could have been me. And when they got straight, they said, Miss Teresa, thank you, because you didn't turn your back on me. Okay. Now when COVID came, yes, I got a little back. I backed up some. But before then, I wasn't afraid. I'm being honest with you. And so we need, like this is it. We need love back. That's the most thing we need in our community is love and unforgiveness and stop judging. I would love for us to, because that's what's going to make the world work is the love, y'all. Drag somebody out. If you see these young girls and they act like that, listen, we was hoochie mamas too, so how can we talk about that they hoochie mamas? We need to love on our kids. Love on these drug dealers. Because they gonna help us. If you hook up with the people that are doing the crime and don't treat them like criminals, say, you know what, I believe in you, boy. I believe I can help you get a job. That's the kind of stuff that we need to do to them. Because that's what they did to us. We didn't judge them. We were like, boy, you better stop that bull crap. But we said other word. And we loved on people. And that's what's gonna save us, is loving on each other. Nothing else works in this world but love. Do you hear me? That's how we can get healed, is through love. And being patient, not judging one another. And I'm complete.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Thank you.
I just want to acknowledge Miss Jameson that left, because she's been working very diligent with our organization. Yeah, she left. And if it wasn't for her, a lot of knowledge that I have in Marquise about the Article 78, I want to give her props, because if it wasn't for her, I want to love up on Miss Jameson.
Shout out to Miss Jameson.
Yeah, and shout out to a few folks, Miss Aisha Torres, who couldn't be here today, Brenda Lees from First Houses, Miss Dana Eldon. These are people that I've been learning from. I don't get to hear who are role models for me. And so I'm gonna open it up to the
Ramona.
Oh, and Ramona. Yeah, she was supposed to be here. It's a whole nother story, but there's a lot of folks who, yeah, shout out to Ramona. There's a lot of folks who couldn't join us today, and some that are joining online, and I'm just thankful for everyone who's either here in physical or here in spirit. So I'm gonna open it up to folks who have questions and or statements. Okay, I don't know where to start from. Okay, yeah, she had her hand up for the longest, I think. So we'll start in the back and then move our way back up. Is that okay with everyone?
Thank you.
Okay.
Because I can't stay till the very end of the meeting. But I'm so inspired by what I heard, and I want to share this. First of all, I just want to introduce myself to everyone. My name is Tina Johnson. I'm on the New York City Environmental Justice Board, now folded into the new mayor's MOJA, Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice. So I am the person who's supposed to be the NYCHA subject matter expert. Okay. And I was born and raised in NYCHA. Let's not talk about how many decades ago that was, but anyway. One of the things that I want to bring up and is something that I want to say to all the panelists, but more importantly to all the people in the room. Everybody spoke about social cohesion, okay? What creates social cohesion, what creates the fabric that knits our neighborhood together, and what protects it. Now, I'm gonna ask you a non sequitur question. Is there anybody in this room who would do business with someone that won't face them?
No.
Is there anybody in this room that would sign a contract with someone who was walking away from them explaining it?
No.
So why do we allow NYCHA to not have real-time communications with tenants? When I say real-time, I don't mean calling 718 so they can call your management office and your housing assistant can call you back. I don't mean calling the management office and having the management office to tell you to call the borough office to get something done. I've heard all these stories. I've lived through them during the pandemic. I didn't have gas for 9 months.
3 years, sis.
And then after I didn't have, before I didn't have gas for 9 months, it was the day after Thanksgiving and they came and dismantled my kitchen. Where's my temporary sink? We're looking all over the borough of Manhattan for it. Funny, I didn't get a temporary sink until 2 of my kids came down with COVID. So now I'm gonna stop whining. But what I wanna say to everybody in every organization is like, you need to be pressing whatever your agendas are. They are all wonderful and like they all have a place and everybody's working together and that's good. But we need to be always bringing up in the room that NYCHA is not accountable because they do not communicate with the tenants in real time. If they communicated with us in real time, around the job that they had to do from the get-go, or even when they started spinning this stuff off, it would be saving money, because when tenants point things out, it's a pressure point of mismanagement, waste, and money going out the window. But they don't want to have a conversation with us in real time. NYCHA, before the monitor, NYCHA had a chance to be on 311 with everybody else. But they don't want to be on 311 because they are able to keep us separate and to keep us isolated and to keep us from building and continuing the social cohesion that our communities are known for and the social cohesion that we're fighting to keep control of. A lot of people, like young lady, you said, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. Maybe one day I'll be a homeowner. But let me tell you something. You know what your biggest value is? Your ability to make an income, your ability to make money over your lifetime. Housing ownership is important, but it's the cherry on the top because you can't buy a house unless you have a job. And you can't do anything unless you have money. So what I'm saying is these things are basic. We had them before. We remember them. They're part of our culture. They're a part of our community. And the way that they have been taken away from us is that people are trying to make contracts with us while they are walking away and we can't hear the last thing that they say. And that when we talk to people and, like, we're trying to help. Remember all those flyers? You see anybody in your house, in your development smoking? You see anybody do this? Like it's up to you. You have to be a partner with NYCHA and you have to dime on them. And like this is how it's supposed to go. Do you see anybody coming up to us trying to dime on the stuff that we're going through? So this is like a really, I just can't stress it enough because the whole time I've been, I'm gonna stop, I'm sorry. The whole time I've been on this committee, I have been arguing with people. When it's time to talk to NYCHA, when it's time to get input from the tenants, and I tell them all the time, there's 400,000 people in NYCHA. I don't speak for 400,000 people in NYCHA, but I need you to speak to 400,000 people in NYCHA and listen to them. So, like this is what we have to hold them to the fire for, because how are we allowing these people to get away with ignoring us? So, and I'm not blaming us. I'm just saying, like, no matter where they are, when they're going to the bathroom, are you listening? When they're going to get their coffee, are you listening? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but can I answer your question? Because it's some of the things that you're saying that we as resident leaders and resident council resident leaders are this is a part of the 964 CRF.
I agree with you.
964
I agree with you.
And NYCHA is supposed to be at the point of conception. And that's what us resident leaders are fighting for, because they are breaking their law. They are in violation of the HUD regulations.
But I'm just asking you to think about, how did they do it? Sometimes when you're in a fight with somebody, okay, yeah, you gotta kick butt and you gotta do whatever you gotta do, but every once in a while you gotta crack your eye and see where that punch is coming from. How do they do it? They're constantly splitting conversations. They're constantly, like talking out of one side of their mouth to one person, talking out of the other side of their mouth to their other person, and they don't listen to us.
So
I just
resident
wanna,
engagement. Yes.
I wanna,
Can she please answer to that?
I just wanna- I just-
all of that, resident engagement.
I just want to answer the how did she do it? How do they do it? Right? Because that's a very prominent question. How do they do it? Legislation.
Yes.
No, I wasn't asking that.
So, okay, well, but I think, it's a prominent topic, at least, right? So I think a lot of us, if we look back at the last time we got our apartments painted or we got appliances renewed, was about 20-some years ago. It was at the time when they signed the Quality Housing and Work Responsibility Act, where Hope 6 came from, and where the Faircloth Amendment came from. And they eliminated, they repealed Section 14. Section 14 was the modernization funds, was the legislation for the modernization funds, because you cannot, if you do not upkeep your home, it will look abandoned. It will look the way NYCHA looks now, 20 years later. And that is how they do it to us. Legislation. We have a new legislation right now in which they're going to dispossess, sell our buildings, what would be our buildings, our opportunities for resident management and home ownership and for economic mobility to the state. Legislation is how they do it. And what we need to do is the same thing. We need to start developing legislation and ideas and start pressing these politicians to a lot of the points of the panel here for us to get legislation that benefits us. And that's how we fight back. And that's our pushback.
Hello, everybody. Okay, like fighting back, everybody in this room is fighting back. Everybody in this room is a hero. Everybody in this room is doing God's work. But I'm speaking about something else. I'm speaking about the heart and the soul that everybody was talking about, the smiles that everybody got on their face when they were talking about the past and how we grew up. I'm 55 years old. So I came from Sydenham Hospital to Grant Houses, and I remember NYCHA. And I'm not putting down anything anybody's doing. I'm just saying that we all have to come together in every freaking situation that is possible and hold NYCHA accountable for talking in a closed room.
So can you teach us how to do that, sister? Are you willing to teach us?
Danielette has a question here.
I would like you to teach us that strategy so we can do that, because whatever the question that you're asking, we're not giving the right answer. So it's like, if you know the way to show us how to, because I understand what you're saying. What you're saying is that nip it in the butt, like find out how they got away with it. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying like, yeah, find out how they got away with it, but also look at, like, there's more strength in this room. Like,
That's
you know
true.
that saying, like that which is in me is greater than that which is outside of me, because that which is in me is God. So there's a lot of strength in this room. There's a lot of positivity, like there's a lot of good happening in this room. All I'm saying is we need to knit a thread that includes the things that we want, the things that we have discussed, the things that are close to our heart, like our community, like our children, and just the whole social cohesion thing. Now, we can be as socially cohesive as we want to as a group, but NYCHA better know, when we speak, you listen. And when you talk to us. You don't talk to somebody else. Like, I'll just say this and I'll leave. They want to, like, NYCHA wants to.
I mean, you don't have to leave. We're gonna have a little mingling session after this.
They're like, oh, you have to, we want to talk to NYCHA tenants. Let's get in touch with a community organization. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Why do you need a community organization to translate NYCHA speak? You can't talk to the tenants?
Well, we can definitely mingle and converse further. We
Thank
just
you
have
so much.
Yeah, my statement is,
Can you leave that number, sister?
my name is Danielette Horton, and I'm the former president of Hammer Houses Resident Council. I did not grow up in public housing. I moved into public housing 25 years ago. I raised a daughter there. Since I've been involved with public housing, what I've come to realize that what's missing, you have 2, 3, 4 generations who have lived in public housing and they do not know the law that governs the housing authority and the law that governs us as a resident, which is the 964 regulation. And I think we should sit down and study this so we can challenge housing. We don't know the law, that's why they get away with what they get away with. We need to, our resident council need to start having sessions that we educate the residents about the 964, because that's the law that they're using against us. And if we sit down and study it and know it, we can challenge them and we can take charge of our community.
Okay, is it okay if we do one last one and then we can break out for mingling in the other room and do some holiday cards and arts and crafts? Is that okay? Because I know we're over time and I want to be respectful of everyone's time.
I want to speak.
Good evening, guys. My name is Mildred Martinez, and I'm from Campos Plaza. Okay? And the sad part too, what's happening in Campos Plaza, that our tenant association is selling us out. Okay? And everybody that's going along with the program, 99% of the time, the residents don't even know, or they're being misinformed, or they're telling them that they're going to be buying their apartments to sign on the dotted line so NYCHA can get that list. Okay, but in reality, our residents are not for it, but they're afraid to speak up because we have a small team of thugs. Okay, every time I go to the meetings that I try to speak, they know that I'm going to be asking them questions that they will not be able to answer in front of everybody. Okay, they're supposed to answer them, but they won't. And the sad part is that RAD is getting away with murder, but they're getting the blessings of our tenant association. And until we don't start holding our tenant association presidents to the fire, that if they hold that position is not to go along with NYCHA, but to protect the residents at all times. And they don't do that. Okay? And then when we complain, like I sent a letter to the chairman, I sent a letter to the inspector general, I sent a letter to in Washington, okay? To have to inquire and put an investigation on what happened in 205 Avenue C when they converted. They were paid $90,000 per apartment. And nobody saw anything like they said in Long Island or Staten Island, or whoever got the first conversion, that they got parquet floors, state-of-the-art appliances, the cabinets, everything is supposed to be beautiful.
Everything is refurbished.
Oh, but at least you got it refurbished. They got 205 only got NYCHA equipment. Okay, so you don't pay 90,000, and I investigated. Okay, what across the street, Stuyvesant Town was renovating at the same time that Campos Plaza got converted. They renovated the whole entire apartment with parquet floors, the original parquet floors. They put real wood. And they put all the cabinets, everything solid wood, state-of-the-art appliances, everything that they were supposed to do. And you know how much they pay? $40,000. So how is it that Campos Plaza and 205 Avenue C paid $90,000 for their apartments to be renovated, and they got NYCHA equipment, starting from the floors, okay? And then you don't care that they started with the floors of NYCHA. You care at the fact that it's $90,000. And now they want to force Campos Plaza 2 to sell, and they want $145,000. So I already put a request for the Inspector General to investigate that. And I sent a letter to the Freedom of Information. They didn't find that one piece of paper to send me because there's nothing documented. How is that? We're in 2014 when they first sold. That information should have been in the files automatically. It's not like when they first started NYCHA in the 30s, okay? So it's really sad that if we are the majority, because we got 600,000 residents, 600,000 plus residents, okay? If we were to actually organize, because that's what I'm trying to do right now with the Latinos, because I go to all these meetings and I don't see too many Latinos in it. So I made it my business to start El Sonido Latino Presente, okay? And I am trying to convey to them, unless we stand up and be counted, we're gonna come out losing. I'm from New York City Housing Authority. I've lived there all my life, and I'm proud to say that I'm from NYCHA. But you know, the sad part to all this is that the residents, rather the management is the one that gives us a bad name and then spreads it out. And then other people that used to live in NYCHA, that moved into better developments, now they look down on us. How dare us? How dare you? But we have to stop saying that we're from the projects. We are from a specific development.
Yes, I love it.
I call it Campos, Don Pedro Albizu Campos Plaza development, whether they like it or not. And we have to start getting we have to, I want to hurry up. We have to remember that in order for us to make an impact, and what that young lady was saying, yes, we need to make an impact. And you know where our impacts, you know, when they hit you hard and they want to raise your rent, they hit you in your pocket. We have to get reliable lawyers that are willing to start us, to hold back our rent. Everybody puts out makes out a money order, gives it to the lawyer that will take the initiative and stop paying your rent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, if you decide to do rent strike as your political strategy, please ensure that you have money in escrow so that they can't there's no reason they can get rid of you. Make sure that's something that just for All Coalition uses as an escalation point.
Real quick.
Okay.
Real quick. Hey,
I'm gonna give him the mic for him to say a word as he comes to you to give you the mic, and then can you be our last person? Can
And hopefully next year we can do
something to ensure that we have Spanish speakers here, because I understand that right now that they're not here right now, and we'd be remiss to acknowledge the fact that we have a lot of Spanish speakers that couldn't participate in our conversation today. So he's gonna head over to you.
Yeah. Okay, and I just wanted to say a quick shout out to Christine, Ramona, Vanessa, and Kristen for doing all the work, and a shout out to the panelists. You're doing great work. And I just wanted to say real quick that you can't, Audre Lorde said, you can't dismantle the master's house with the master's tools. And so what y'all doing are building power outside of that. So just remember, like all the shit they set up, all the legislator, all the voting, that's all white supremacy. That's all capitalism on stolen land. So what you're doing is very important, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, so hi, everybody. I don't know if everybody know me, but my name is Tanisha Grant. I am the founder and executive director of Parent Support in Parents New York. I have a few points that I want to make. The first point I want to make is that everyone is stuck in their trauma. We spend a lot of this meeting hearing about our trauma. That's not going to get us nowhere. We all know the issues. So spending so much time on individual stories, we all care. I didn't have gas for three years during the pandemic. We're still in a pandemic, by the way. But we all have trauma from the housing issues. Whether we're in NYCHA, whether we're in stabilized housing, it's all the same under different names. First point. Second point, when we talk about organizing and we talk about getting together, as someone who is on the ground every day organizing parents, I have given almost 700 children laptops. And when I tell you, one of the hardest part of my jobs is getting people to come together. That's something that we have to deal with. All right? Even when we're giving out resources, it's very hard to get people to come sit in this room and we're talking about their homes. So instead of talking about all the trauma that we have together, why are we talking about strategies to make the more people in this room, to make more of these 400,000 residents get involved? Because that's the only thing that's going to happen. I'm so sick of hearing about foils and lawyers. They're not on our side. What Rob just said, the legislation is the reason that we're in this situation. Anytime that housing can have you in an apartment without heat, without hot water, with roaches, with mold, and no one is held accountable, they literally write the law so they won't be held accountable. So we got to stop talking like that. It is going to take the people in mass. We have the blueprint. Anything that we have want changed in this country, it has always been the masses that change it. So the next time we get together, I would love to hear strategies of all our little organizations joining together and becoming more than a coalition where we just get together when we have these conversations. Because I don't know all of you beautiful people, and I should. And see, that's the disconnect right there. I know this man, I know, we've been to Albany together, we fight together, but as a, continuation of that, I should also know who you are. So when I have parent power hours every 2 weeks virtually, and we're bringing special guests on, which you will be soon, we can bring this information to the parents that we organize with. So it's going to take the people, the parents who live in these buildings, the children, but I'm going to be upset if I come to another meeting and all we are concentrating on is our individual trauma, because our individualism is what gets us into this situation. We need to be a collaboration of people that are upset, and we're not taking it no more. We're not asking. The young lady who was here, she said, well, how do we get them to listen? You talk first. You tell them what you're here for. You demand it. If we're all demanding the same thing together, they can't ignore us. But if I'm standing there by myself, holding everybody accountable, and y'all don't want to be nasty to the elected officials, that's on you. We have to understand that they work for us. It is not us. It's not here for us to be nice to them. It's here for us to make sure that they are accountable. Until we stop being nice to these people that keep us under their boot, we ain't getting nowhere. And I lay back. Thank y'all. Have a good Saturday.
I just want to add, we have been multiple meetings together. That's why we did this, was so I could see you in person. Yeah, and that's why we're gonna go in another room and mingle and really get to know each other. I didn't even know you do this mom's thing. I'm about to be a mom, and so this is why we're doing this. It's to ensure that we can actually really build community in real life and in real time. And so Marquise is gonna close us out, and then we're gonna head into the other room to eat some yum yums and do some arts and crafts and love upon each other.
I definitely want to thank Tanisha and everyone, right? But responding directly to what Tanisha said, is important to respond because the work is happening. It's happening, and we got to do a better job at getting more people at the table. In the next week or two, we're going to be putting together a round table of leaders from each and every one of these groups to put together our state platform, which lists out what we are demanding in budget and what we are demanding in legislation. But today, the core reason for today was to celebrate, to recognize not where we're going, but to recognize how we got to this point right now. We could have been in a worse, farther place. This Public Housing Preservation Trust would have been passed had it not been for the groups in this room.
Yes, Marquise.
We have been to Washington, D.C. We have been to Albany, as you said, and we have not taken a step back to recognize the power and what we have achieved today. So today is about recognizing who we are as a collective, celebrating who we are as a collective and re-energizing and powering up because we got more to do. So let's take this time to go into this room and love on each other so that we can be prepared tomorrow, as soon as tomorrow, so that we can get back in the battle and fight because we will win.
That's why you my brother.
One more. Can we have?
No, I'm supposed to
We can
sing.
sing in the room.
I
So
have to.
can we just?
You supposed to sing.
Yeah, no. Can we just do one more warm applause for our panelists? That's it. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Just go out singing "We Shall Overcome" 'cause that's a good song.
All right. I left it home.
Can we clap it up for Vanessa? Yes, you make things happen for us. Appreciate you, baby.
Who's ready to do their interview?
I got it.
Oh, make an announcement. You said you were testimony, right? I don't want to go. Make the announcement, so everybody stop.
Here, it's always good to give testimony.
Did you grab some people? Please pick up your.
I want to testify. I want to testify. Hey, he is. He's ready.
He said he did it.
Oh, he did? Yeah.
Natasha. Rusty.
I don't know, but I think.
Just a reminder that we're still collecting testimonies. Just a few minutes of why public housing matters to you. Thank you so much.
Yes, okay.
Upstairs.
I want to hear your thoughts.
Excuse me? Those Reverend's trying to call you. I'll call you. I'm gonna go upstairs.
I mean, I just want them to go.
No problem.
I'll try to get it.
Oh, yeah, Saturday.